Hey, Soul Stories fam! We're starting a new love journey. Tell us where you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe and join our family. Now stay with us. The story begins. The Sterling Grand Hotel on a June evening always glowed as if New York City had slipped into its most dazzling gown. Golden light spilled through crystal arches overhead, casting a soft sheen across couture gowns and tuxedos, so perfectly tailored they looked like their own private universe of luxury. In the middle of it all, Luna Hart stood pressed against the wall, as if taking even one step forward might make the entire room collapse. The black dress she wore, a dress she'd borrowed last minute from a coworker, hugged her small frame. The fabric was cheap, but she'd cared for it enough that it looked decent under the warm lights. Still, compared to the glittering $1,000 gowns twirling around the event tables, she was nothing but a tiny dot swallowed by a shimmering painting. Luna tugged gently at the strap, trying to hide a spot where the stitching was about to come undone. "Return this to Anne tomorrow. Just survive the gala," she whispered to herself. She was here for one reason only, to fill in as a temporary assistant to the event designer. Not wealthy enough to belong here, not confident enough to walk in as if she were part of it, but she had no choice. The rise and fall of this month's paycheck beat like the frantic pulse of someone trying to stay afloat in a life drowning in bills. She was attempting to fade into a shadowed corner when a voice behind her froze her entire body. "Luna, is that really you?" Her heart skipped. She turned. Derek, the man who once promised to marry her when they made it through their struggles together. The man who left her the moment her father died and her mother fell ill. The man who said she was too heavy for the life he wanted. Tonight he looked polished to the point of cruelty, a custom suit, smug smile, and a blonde woman with dark red lips hanging onto his arm. Derek looked at her dress the way someone might look at a wrinkled curtain. "You came to this event?" He raised a brow. "You look, different." The woman beside him let out a quiet, intentional giggle. Luna kept her chin up, though her throat tightened. "I'm here with the event design team." "Oh." Derek stretched the word, looking her up and down. "I thought maybe you were serving drinks. Because that dress." Another soft laugh. A nearby table glanced over. Heat flared across Luna's cheeks, her throat burning, her legs itching to run. She stepped back, voice trembling but controlled. "Enjoy your evening." But Derek didn't let her go. He tilted his head, studying her embarrassment like it was entertainment. "So where's the new boyfriend?" "Oh, wait, probably no one." Luna turned away before he could finish. Hot tears stung her eyes. She couldn't cry here, not under these lights, not in front of him. She grabbed the nearest door and slipped inside, just needing somewhere to breathe. The room she entered was completely different, darker, quieter. So spacious her footsteps echoed like a reminder she had wandered into a place she absolutely shouldn't be. It was the VIP ballroom, a private space reserved only for the most important guests. The lighting was softer, warmer, and there was no one there except a man standing before the glass wall overlooking the Manhattan skyline. Luna stopped, heart thudding. She should turn around immediately. But the man, he stood perfectly still, hands in his pockets, the black vest fitting his broad shoulders as if it had been sculpted onto him. The light traced the cut of his sharp jawline, his slightly tousled dark hair, and the open-top buttons of his white shirt, revealing sun-touched skin. A quiet loneliness radiated from his shoulders, as if he carried an entire city on his back and no one noticed. Before she could retreat, his voice drifted toward her. Low, deep, slightly rough. "Are you planning to stand there forever?" Luna startled. She didn't know why. Maybe because she was too embarrassed, too hurt, too exhausted. But something inside her cracked open. "I'm sorry, I just need to hide here for a moment," she whispered, her voice breaking. He turned. His deep gray eyes locked onto hers. Not cold and not curious. Just understanding in a way she hadn't expected. "Are you in trouble?" he asked, stepping closer. His voice carried weight, as if anything she said next would matter to him. Luna clenched her hands. She thought of Derek, the red-dressed woman, the mocking laughter. The borrowed dress was squeezing her chest like a reminder that she didn't belong here. And she blurted it out, words escaping before reason could stop her. "Could you pretend to be my boyfriend tonight?" She inhaled sharply. "Just for tonight." The world paused. Alex Sterling, she didn't know his name yet, didn't know who he was, only that he looked like a mountain carved into the center of the city, stood still for several seconds. Then he walked toward her. Slow, certain, each step piecing her world back together. He stopped in front of her, so close his warm breath brushed her forehead. His hand slid to her waist, steady, protective, a presence that made her entire body tremble. He dipped his head, voice smooth and dark as black silk. "All right." A beat. "Tonight, you're mine." The main ballroom doors swung open as Alec led Luna out. Golden light swept over them. He, tall and commanding, every step radiating quiet dominance. She, small but held firmly at his side, as if he had chosen long ago to protect her. Guests turned, a wave of whispers. Derek froze in place. Alec angled his head, gaze sharp as a blade. "Anyone touches her, deals with me." Luna stood beside him, heart pounding, feeling like she had stepped into a story that wasn't hers. But in that moment, when his hand tightened gently at her waist, she knew one thing. Tonight, someone was on her side, and the world suddenly wasn't so cold anymore. Luna had never felt so many eyes on her at once. Within seconds of stepping out of the VIP ballroom, the atmosphere of the gala shifted in a way she had never experienced. Women in glittering gowns glanced at her from head to toe, their gazes sharp enough to slice skin. The men, meanwhile, looked at Alec as though they had just uncovered a state secret. And Luna? She just wanted to disappear into a speck of dust drifting up toward the ceiling. "Oh no, oh no, oh no," she muttered under her breath, walking beside Alec and feeling like she was balancing on a tightrope. "What am I even doing? I dragged a random guy into my personal mess. You're going to get in trouble. I'm going to get in trouble. And I don't even know your name." Alec glanced over. Just one look, but it felt like he was peering straight through her skin, down to the place she tried hardest to hide. "You're talking a lot," he said, voice low. Luna jolted. "Sorry, when I'm nervous, I babble. I know I shouldn't have dragged you into this. I should have handled it myself, but Luna." The way he said her name, despite her never telling him, made her freeze. She looked up, brown eyes wide. How do you know my name?" Alec tilted his head, the corner of his mouth lifting slightly, as if he had just heard the cutest question in the world. "You were just humiliated in the other room," he replied matter-of-factly. "I wasn't the only one who heard." Luna's face went crimson, as someone had just turned the headlights on inside her chest. Worse yet, Alec's eyes didn't look away from her. Not cold, not annoyed, just focused, as though she were the only interesting thing in a gala full of thousands. They were nearing the champagne bar when Derek appeared. Like the universe had decided to give her one more challenge tonight. He stood in front of them, a girl in a red dress clinging to his arm. "Luna, I want to apologize." His voice trembled slightly, but Luna knew that wasn't remorse. It was fear, because Alex Sterling was standing right behind her. Luna didn't get a chance to speak before Alex stepped forward half a pace, just enough to form an invisible wall between her and Derek. "Go on," Alex said, each word slow and edged. "Say it clearly." Derek swallowed. "I'm sorry," he managed, voice barely above a whisper. Alec crossed his arms. "For what?" Luna's jaw dropped. Oh God, he was actually doing this. Derek flushed red. For embarrassing her. And, Alec prompted, bored. Luna covered her face. Oh no. What more did he want? Derek clenched his teeth. And for not treating her kindly. Alec nodded, calm as if concluding a business deal. Good. Next time you open your mouth to insult her. He leaned forward, his voice dropping a register that made Derek turn ghost pale. I'll remember this. Derek dragged his girlfriend away almost instantly, as though fleeing an execution ground. Luna stayed frozen, speechless. She felt warm, protected in a way no one had ever protected her before. and yet she also wanted to dig a hole and bury herself from embarrassment. She turned to Alex, speaking in the tiny voice of a child caught stealing cookies. You didn't have to do that. Alec looked at her for a few seconds, eyes both sharp and warm, a combination so strange it made her chest tighten. I did it because I wanted to. Luna bit her lip. The golden lights brushed her cheeks, making them look even rosier. She felt like she was standing under a spotlight without performing. Alec led her around the gala as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Sometimes he rested a hand lightly on her back, like a silent reassurance. Sometimes he simply watched her speak, eyes holding that same curious softness. At one point, Luna talked way too much. She knew she did. About her event design job, about how the dress she was wearing was borrowed, about how she preferred white wine, but was stuck with water tonight. Alec listened. He actually listened. Are you always like this? He asked, lips slightly curved. Like what? She blinked. Talking as if you're racing your own breath? Luna flushed bright red. I'm sorry. Alec shook his head. Don't apologize for what makes you more endearing. Luna froze. A girl near the left table nearly dropped her champagne after overhearing that line. By the end of the gala, everything felt unreal to Luna. She leaned against a wall to catch her breath, her feet aching, her heart pounding so hard she had to press a hand to her chest. Alex stood an arm's length away, looking at her like he still couldn't figure out why she captivated him. Luna swallowed. Thank you, she said softly, sincerely, for pretending to be my boyfriend, for letting me lean on you tonight. A velvet silence fell between them. Alex stepped closer, just a little, but enough for his breath to brush her lips. His eyes locked on hers, dark enough that Luna felt herself falling. Luna, he murmured, I wasn't pretending. Her breath hitched. The world seemed to tremble for a beat. Alec dipped his head, voice dropping to something that sounded made for her ears alone. Tonight, I'm calling this a beginning. And Luna's heart, tired, bruised, yet never done hoping, raced wildly for the first time in a long, long while. Morning in New York had a light all its own, pale gold, thin like a chiffon curtain, soft enough to soothe a city that had stayed awake all night. But it did nothing to calm Luna Hart's tangled mind. She walked briskly down a Brooklyn sidewalk, her cheap backpack bouncing with every step. She'd barely slept, not because of the event design job she had this morning, but because of him, Alex Sterling. She shoved her hands into her bomber jacket pockets to hide the slight tremble in her fingers. Everything from last night felt like a dream dipped in the golden glow of the gala. Him holding her hand, him looking at her like she was something rare, him making her ex apologize, and finally, the words she was still suffering from remembering. I wasn't pretending. A billionaire said that to her, a girl who had just paid her electric bill yesterday. No. Impossible. It had to be a temporary moment, nothing more. Men as handsome, wealthy, and powerful as him always disappeared after the last smile of the night. That was how the world worked. She didn't dare hope for anything else. Luna pushed open the door to Bean and Bloom, the cafe where she worked 3 mornings a week. The bell chimed. She inhaled deeply and told herself, forget last night. Return to reality. Make lattes. Smile at customers. Earn tips. Pay bills. But when she saw the seats by the window, her heart dropped straight to her feet. Him, Alec, sitting there like he had been part of the cafe long before it existed. White shirt with sleeves rolled up, the tendons in his forearms shifting slightly as he flipped through his schedule on an iPad. His hair is perfectly, artfully messy. Early sunlight carved his jawline as if it were shaped out of marble. He looked completely out of place, like a king who had accidentally sat down in a budget coffee shop. Luna froze. Her body reacted before her brain could. Heart pounding, cheeks burning, mind arrow blank. She muttered, no, no way, absolutely not. She spun around and pretended the syrup pump suddenly needed her entire attention. But Alec had already looked up, and his eyes found her. A spark shot straight down her spine. Alex Sterling smiled, a small smile, but enough to make every girl in the cafe turn her head. He stood, slowly. That tall, commanding body moved as if gravity didn't apply to him. "Good morning, Luna." His voice was as deep as the espresso she had just ground. Luna turned, trying to stay calm, but her lips trembled anyway. You you followed me?" The words slipped out. "Oh, God." Alec tilted his head, not denying it, not embarrassed. "If I said yes." He held her gaze deep and steady, as if he could hear her heartbeat. "Would you run?" That question, in that warm, low voice, made her knees weaken so much she had to grip the counter. Luna tried to smile. "I might run toward you or run away from you. I haven't decided." Alec raised a brow. "I'm hoping for the first option." A female customer beside them had her jaw dropped, as if she were watching a romance movie trailer. Luna tied on her apron and stood behind the machine. She tried not to look at Alec, but like an invisible pull, her eyes kept drifting his way. He sat back where he'd been, checking his schedule, but he was still watching her. Not in a creepy, staring way. More like observing, attentive, gentle, yet sharp enough to make her want to hide behind the grinder. Her hands trembled so badly while making a latte that some milk foam spilled over. She whispered, "Great. Focus, Luna. Don't let him make you. Alec approached the counter. She nearly dropped the pitcher. He braced one hand on the wooden counter and leaned a little closer. Close enough for her to smell his scent. Warm wood, clean, expensive enough to make the entire cafe feel upgraded. "You're shaking," he murmured. "I am not," she snapped, cheeks flaming. Alec tilted his head, lips curving slightly. "Sure, if you say so." She wanted to argue, but his breath was brushing her cheek, stealing her ability to form words. He took the latte from her, his fingers brushing hers. A tiny touch, but enough to knock her heart out of orbit. Alec sat down and took a sip. He frowned. Luna hurried over, nervous. "Is it terrible?" Alec set the cup down and looked at her with an unreadable expression. "No, it's very good." A beat. "It's just, I assumed you talked to me more than you did last night." Her breath nearly escaped her lungs. "You waited for me to come talk to you?" Alec leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. He didn't smile, but his eyes were brighter than the morning sunlight through the window. "I came here for you." Luna's mind simply shut down. "You? What?" "I came here," Alec repeated each word slow and deliberate. "For you." She had to look away for a few seconds just to remember how to breathe. A while later, Alec stood. He walked up and handed her a matte black business card with embossed silver letters. "Alex Sterling, Chief Executive Officer, Sterling Corporation." She looked at the card, then at him, then at the card again. Her brain stopped working. Alex spoke lightly, as if this were completely normal. "Call me if anyone bothers you." She swallowed hard. Alex stepped half a pace closer, his voice dipping lower, soft but hot enough to warm every inch of her skin. "Or, if you want to see me." Luna's heart tripped over itself. She didn't know whether she nodded or not, but Alex seemed to take it as enough. He smiled, a rare, stunning smile that made every woman in the cafe sigh. "Have a good morning, Luna." He walked out, leaving behind the scent of warm wood and her heart floating somewhere near the ceiling. Luna stood behind the counter, clutching the card to her chest, whispering, "No way. This is actually happening." But just like Alex said last night, this was only the beginning. Brooklyn in the afternoon always carried a different color from Manhattan. No skyscrapers blocking out the sky. No luxury cars honking in impatience. Just old red brick houses, front steps overflowing with tiny chrysanthemums, and alleyways that felt like they were breathing slower after a long day. Luna pushed open the door to her third-floor apartment, her aching feet protesting with every step. The apartment was small, very small, but clean, bright, and holding the faint warmth of something she called hope. A window looked out over a quiet street. A vintage patterned rug lay beneath a tiny wooden table. A bookshelf held a few worn novels she bought from a $2 thrift store. And in the corner near the medicine cabinet sat the person who both hurt and softened her heart at the same time. "Mom, I'm home." Her mother, Maria Hart, sat on an old recliner, a blanket draped over her aching knees. She looked up, eyes dimmed by age and illness, yet still shining like a small sun. "My Luna." Her voice was weak, but warm. Luna set her bag down and wrapped her arms around her mother from behind. The scent of cheap shampoo mixed with lavender from the diffuser formed a fragrance she associated with home, or rather, with the only love she had never lost. "How are you feeling?" Luna asked, adjusting the blanket. "I'm doing fine." Her mother smiled, a small smile, but enough for Luna to know everything was not fine. Medication, hospital bills, old debts. Those weighed heavier than the tiny apartment they shared. But Luna never said a word, never let her mother see the burden she carried. She always smiled. Smiled until sometimes she no longer knew who she was smiling for. Her mother? Herself? Or just to keep from breaking? After making her mom a bowl of hot soup, Luna retreated to her tiny bedroom. The moment she lay down, the borrowed dress from last night flashed through her mind. Then Derek's face. And then him. Alex Sterling. She pressed a hand to her forehead, trying to block out the way he looked at her, how he stood close to her at the coffee shop, or the line that nearly made her drop the milk pitcher. "I came here because of you." No, she couldn't think about that. She turned her face into the pillow. But her heart, the same heart that had been shattered by men who said they loved her and abandoned her the second life got difficult, beat a little harder. She was terrified of loving again, terrified of trusting someone only to watch them walk away when she needed them most, terrified of opening her heart and being left exactly where she was weakest. When her father died, Derek left with the excuse, "I can't handle the pressure." When her mother got sick, Derek didn't show up at all. She bore everything alone, money, emotions, the future. Through all of it, Luna learned one thing. No one was coming to save her except herself. And yet she still believed in goodness. A foolish, childlike belief, but the only thing that let her get out of bed every day. Her fingers brushed the nightstand where she had placed Alex's card, a matte black card with silver lettering glimmering under her bedroom light. She traced its cool surface gently. "Stop imagining things, Luna," she whispered. "He was just being polite. People like him don't care about people like me." Her phone buzzed. Luna jumped. It felt as though her blood stopped flowing. The sender's name lit up on the screen. Alex Sterling. She almost dropped the phone. Last night she saved his number, hesitantly and with trembling fingers. She didn't think he would text first. Her hands shook as she opened the message. One line, no embellishment, no wasted words. "Are you okay?" That was it. But it was like a hand reaching into the deepest part of her, where she kept all the pieces of herself nobody ever saw. Luna pressed a hand to her lips, trembling slightly, and then a smile bloomed. A real smile. Not the practiced one she wore every day. A smile that made her eyes sting and her heart warm in a way that scared her. Her heart beat faster, softer, opening, just a sliver. Luna curled onto her side, hugging her phone to her chest like a fragile secret. For the first time in a very long time, she felt noticed. Not because someone wanted something from her, not because someone needed her to be strong, but because a man she barely understood genuinely wanted to know if she was okay. The small lamp cast a dream-soft glow across her face. She closed her eyes. In the darkness, the reply formed all on its own. "I'm okay. Because of you." But Luna didn't send it. She merely lay there, smiling like a girl who might be falling in love. Even with a heart full of scars, even with a past that had forced her into corners of fear, even after promising herself she would never open up again, something in her was awakening. A tenderness, a vulnerability, a truth so real it almost hurt, a beginning, a light she didn't dare name. That afternoon, Brooklyn felt darker than usual. Gray clouds hung low, almost brushing the tops of old brick buildings. The air was thick, humid, warning of a storm about to sweep across the city. Luna had just finished her shift at Bean and Bloom, her apron still faintly smelling of coffee. She wanted to go home and collapse into bed. She felt exhausted today, but her steps slowed when she saw Derek leaning against the wall across the alley. Her heart clenched. "No, not now." Derek looked at her with eyes she once mistook for love, now filled with panic, confusion, and a touch of restrained anger. Luna! He took one step forward. We need to talk. No. She turned away, heading in the opposite direction. I have nothing to say to you. Derek grabbed her hand, not hard enough to hurt, but enough to make old fear coil in her chest. Just listen. His voice cracked, low and frantic. I just want to explain about that night. For what? Luna pulled her hand back. So you can say a few more things to make me feel small again? Derek gritted his teeth. Do you know how stupid you made me look in front of everyone? You walked in with him, that guy. You don't get to tell me who I can walk in with. Derek stepped closer, voice dropping into something seething. Who do you think you are getting involved with someone like that? You think he's serious? You think you can... Step back, Derek, Luna said, her voice sharp and strong for the first time. Don't make me call the police. A strong gust of wind tore through the alley, blowing her hair back. A raindrop landed on her collarbone. The air froze, waiting for the break point. Derek took another step. His eyes darkened. A side of him Luna had never seen when they were together. You don't have anyone here. Don't overreact. Luna backed up instinctively, her back nearly brushing the wall. Derek, I said stop. Step! A voice spoke behind him, low, cold, and calm enough to be terrifying. She's not alone. Derek froze. Luna gasped. She looked past him, and her heart stumbled. Alex Sterling stepped out from the shadows of the alley, as if carved from the darkness itself. The streetlight caught his face, hard, sharp, completely different from the gentle version she had seen in the coffee shop that morning. His black shirt framed broad shoulders, his hands tucked in his pockets. Yet somehow his stance carried enough force to compress the air around him. The stance of a CEO, a man accustomed to command, a man Derek, me or anyone, would be a fool to challenge. Alec walked forward, each step slow but unyielding, eyes locked on Derek. And, he added, voice dropping low enough to blend with the wind, you're not going near her. Derek swallowed hard, as if all the arrogance in him drained out in one breath. Why? Why are you even involved with her? She's nothing but trouble. Alec didn't respond. He simply stepped fully in front of Luna, his body wide enough to shield her completely from Derek. That feeling, being protected so completely, heated Luna's chest in a way she didn't understand. No one had ever stood in front of her like that, with their whole presence and strength. Leave, Alex said. Simple, quiet, a command disguised as a suggestion. Derek looked at Luna one last time, as if wanting to salvage something, but the moment his eyes met Alex, everything in him broke. He turned and ran like someone fleeing danger. Another raindrop fell, then another. The street was empty except for the two of them. Luna stood there gripping her bag strap, afraid that if she let go, her legs would tremble too much for her to stand. Alec turned back to her, stepping close. Close enough for his shadow to fall over her, forming a shield as the rain began to thicken. Are you all right? He asked, his voice still deep but softened. Luna shook her head, not to say she was fine, but to push back the tears threatening to rise. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't want to drag you into something messy. Alec frowned. Messy is letting a man like that get anywhere near you. The gala, the morning, and now this. You don't have to do this. A raindrop clung to her eyelashes. Alec lifted his hand, slowly, almost cautiously, as if afraid she might flinch, and touched her cheek. His fingers were warm, steady, so gentle that Luna's eyes closed instinctively. He wiped the drop away, uncertain whether it was rain or a tear, but the touch alone made her entire body soften. You don't have to be strong all the time, Luna. His voice was low, tender, yet sharp enough to cut through the pain she'd buried. No one can do that. No. She opened her eyes and looked at him through the thin veil of rain. Alec's face was slightly wet from the first drops. His hair darkened. The streetlight framed him in a golden outline, making him look like someone who had stepped out of a film she never believed she had the right to belong to. Yet he was standing here, for her, again. Alec, she whispered. He leaned in, close, not close enough to kiss, but enough for his warmth to brush her lips. "I'm here," Alex said. "Not out of obligation, not out of courtesy, but because of you." Luna's heart pounded so hard she pressed a hand to her chest to steady it. In the rain pouring over Brooklyn, between the old brick walls and distant traffic, Luna felt something she had buried for years. She wasn't alone anymore. Night spilled over Brooklyn like black silk. The brief rain earlier left shimmering streaks of water across the streets, turning every passing car into a painter of dancing golden light. The air after rain always smelled cleaner, fresher, like a reminder that sometimes to find peace, we must walk through a small storm first. Luna stood under the awning, her hands still trembling after that encounter with Derek. She took a deep breath to steady herself, but her heart continued pounding as if trying to break free from her chest. Alex stood one step away. He didn't speak. He didn't touch her. Yet his presence moved through the air like a quiet current of heat, making Luna feel both safe and dangerously unbalanced. "Let me take you home," Alex said. A simple offer, but with his smooth, low voice, it sounded like something else entirely. She didn't have to walk alone anymore. Luna wanted to refuse, wanted to say, "I'm fine," wanted to be strong, like she always tried to be. But when she met his gray eyes, steady, calm, impossibly warm, she could only breathe out one word: "Okay." His car was parked nearby, a black sedan, not the limousine she expected a man like him to drive. The unexpected simplicity made him feel more real. They drove in silence for almost half the way. Not awkward, not distant, a comfortable silence. The kind that existed only between two people beginning to understand each other. Streetlights brushed Luna's cheeks with every mile. Alec glanced sideways now and then, each look like a slow, silent flame against her heart. As they ascended the Brooklyn Bridge, Alec eased his foot off the gas. The wind from the river swept in, cold but scented with the familiar tang of the city. "Are you cold?" he asked. Luna shook her head, but a shiver betrayed her. Alec watched. The corner of his mouth lifted. He switched off the signal and pulled into a safe space along the bridge. "What are you doing?" Luna's eyes widened. Alec leaned his forearm on the steering wheel, tilting his head toward her, as though this was something he had decided long before tonight. "Get out for a moment," he said slowly, "if you want." Luna didn't understand. She didn't understand anything, but she opened the door and stepped out anyway. Something in his voice made refusal impossible. The wind was stronger on the bridge. Luna's hair blew around her face, a few strands brushing her lips. Alex stood across from her, hands in his pockets, black shirt slightly unbuttoned, as if he belonged to the shadows in the night. Golden bridge lights rippled across the river below, turning the water into liquid gold. The world felt far away. Only the two of them remained. "Are you all right now?" Alec asked, voice low and intimate, as though it existed solely for her ears. Luna inhaled. "Yeah, I think so." Alec watched her for a long time. So long she had to look at the wooden planks of the bridge just to keep herself from melting into the moment. Then he moved closer. One step, two steps. She looked up and their eyes locked. Alec's gaze. God! It could have melted steel. It was enough to turn every wall she had spent years building into dust. Luna swallowed, searching for her voice. "Tonight," she whispered, "is beautiful." Alex stopped right in front of her. Only one breath separated them. The space between them thickened, heated, as if the entire city faded away. "No," he murmured, eyes fixed on her lips. "You're what's beautiful." The words shot through her like electricity. Alec lifted his hand, brushing her cheek, his thumb tracing a line so gentle she had to close her eyes, as if he reached a place within her she didn't know still existed. "Luna," he whispered. She opened her eyes. Alec's gaze no longer held politeness or mere concern. It was the gaze of a man who had restrained himself for far too long and no longer wished to. He leaned in, and the kiss arrived. Slow, deep, hot, soft as midnight mist, yet fierce as fire rising from his chest to meet her lips. Luna gasped when their mouths met. It felt like a locked door in her heart had finally burst open. Alec's hand slid around her back, pulling her into him. firm, certain, like their bodies knew each other long before their minds did. She gripped his shoulder, feeling heat radiate from the muscles beneath his shirt. His body burned like a furnace, yet his kiss was gentle as a summer rain. The world around them, cars, wind, river, faded away. There was only breath, only lips moving slowly but certainly. Only the weight of everything unspoken poured into this single moment. When Alec lifted his mouth just half a centimeter, he didn't step back. He paused only to look at her, his eyes dark, intense, tender enough to make her tremble. Luna's breath stuttered. "Alec!" He rested his forehead against hers. "Kissing you," he murmured, "is the only thing I'm certain about tonight." She tried to speak, but her lips found his again, this time harder, hungrier, full of everything she had hidden. A soft sound escaped her as he pulled her even closer. A drop of rain landed on her shoulder, then another. But they didn't let go. And in that soft rain on the Brooklyn Bridge, Luna understood one truth. She had just given away a piece of her heart to the man before her. And for the first time in her life, it felt absolutely, breathtakingly right. If anyone asked Luna what had confused her the most this week, she could answer without thinking. Handsome men will ruin your life, or, at the very least, ruin your ability to think like a normal human being. Because tonight, as she stood in front of the glass tower known as Sterling Tower, home to Alec's penthouse, her heart was beating like it wanted to submit a resignation letter early. A black-suited concierge gave her a polite nod. "Ms. Hart, Mr. Sterling is waiting on the 82nd floor." The 82nd floor. The kind of floor even people who'd lived in New York for 10 years never dared step foot on. Luna felt like a side character who had accidentally wandered into the main scene of a movie. She adjusted her dress, the navy blue one she borrowed from Anne again, thankfully not ripping anywhere this time, and stepped into the glass elevator. It ascended so high she could see her reflection dissolve into Manhattan's night sky, her wavy hair floating slightly around her. "Breathe, Luna. It's just dinner with a billionaire in a penthouse. Oh, God." When the elevator doors opened, Luna almost dropped her purse. Alec's penthouse was not a home. It was an entirely different planet. The ceiling was so high she was convinced someone could place a giant Christmas tree in the middle of the room without touching the top. Floor-to-ceiling glass wrapped around the living space, opening to a Manhattan night glittering in gold, as if the entire city had been rolled out beneath her feet. A glossy black piano sat in the corner. A sleek, modern fireplace glowed softly. A cream leather sofa stretched out like a private shore. The interior design was minimalist but so luxurious it made her feel like she needed to breathe softer. And in the center of it all, Alec stood with his back turned, pouring wine. His white dress shirt hugged his broad shoulders, sleeves rolled up to the elbows, showing strong forearms. Warm golden light glinted off his slightly tousled dark hair, the kind of tousle that made people want to reach out and touch it. Alec turned at the sound of her footsteps. His gaze dropped, taking her in from her hair to her low heels, slowly, deeply, as if he were saving the image in some private corner of his mind. "Welcome," he said. His voice, his voice. Luna swallowed. This is what you call a simple dinner?" Alec's mouth curved, a rare smile like a small crack in a sheet of ice that somehow made the whole world brighter. "I said dinner. I never promised simple." Luna glanced around. In the open kitchen, an actual Michelin star chef was slicing something on a cutting board, while a sous chef was plating dishes like they were filming MasterChef. She whispered, "Are you kidding me right now?" Alec placed a glass of wine in her hand, his fingers brushing hers just long enough to pull every degree of warmth in her body toward that spot. "No jokes," he said. "I wanted to bring you somewhere you'd feel comfortable." Luna laughed, slightly shaky. "Comfortable? In a place where just standing here is probably worth $300 a view?" Alec raised an eyebrow. "I'm not charging you." She nearly choked on her wine. Alec's smile widened. Subtle but real. Good grief. How could he be this attractive and this dangerous? Dinner took place in the open kitchen, not at the 10-chair dining table in the living room. Alec simply said, "I want to sit closer to you." A simple sentence, yet it tightened her heart into one small, soft knot. The chef served each dish one by one: truffle ravioli, perfectly grilled Wagyu steak, and a salad topped with burrata. Luna tried to eat like a normal person, but every time Alec glanced over and asked, "Do you like it?" Or, "You're not a fan of this dish?" She nearly threw her fork. Midway through dinner, her wine glass shook too hard. 3 millimeters more, and it would have spilled everywhere. "Oh, God! I'm so sorry! Alex steadied the glass with one hand, calm as if this happened every night. "It's fine," he said, voice low and gentle. "Here, you don't have to pretend anything." Those words landed in her chest like a drop of honey. She didn't have to pretend to be strong, didn't have to pretend to be calm, didn't have to pretend she belonged in his luxurious world. For the first time, Luna realized he wanted her exactly as she was. When dinner ended, Alec led her onto the wide balcony facing the Manhattan skyline. The wind was stronger now, tugging her hair to one side. She stood near the glass railing, tilting her head back toward the city. "Tonight is crazy," Luna murmured. "Oh, I mean beautiful. I mean beautiful, but in a kind of terrifying way." Alex stood right behind her, close enough that his breath brushed the back of her neck. "Terrifying?" he asked, voice deep and quiet. Terrifying in the sense that..." She turned to face him. "When things are too good, I don't know if I deserve them." Alec looked at her as if her words had touched something deep inside him. "Luna." He lifted her chin with two fingers. "You don't have to prove anything." Her whole body softened under that touch. Alec lowered his head. This time the kiss wasn't as surprising like the one on the Brooklyn Bridge, but it was deeper, slower, heavier. His hands settled on her waist. Strong, steady, claiming her in a way that was subtle but undeniable. Luna placed her hand on his chest, feeling his heartbeat. Steady, powerful. Their breaths mingled as his lips moved against hers, each motion intentional, carrying the certainty of a man who knew exactly what he wanted. And the person he wanted was her. When Alec pulled back just a few centimeters, his hand still firm on her waist, his voice melted into the breeze. "I want you here, in my world, in your way." Luna gasped softly, her eyes shining in the city lights. She knew this kiss, this night, had changed everything, and maybe she was starting to fall. 2 weeks after the penthouse night, Luna's life glittered in a way she had never dared to hope for. Mornings began with messages from Alec. Evenings ended with walks along the Hudson. Small moments, warm moments. His quick sip of her latte followed by a simple, perfect flavor. The way his eyes lit up when she shared absurd stories from her teen years. Those 2 weeks, unbelievable as they were, felt like a soft blanket wrapped around her heart, soothing wounds she once believed would take a lifetime to heal. Then one morning, that blanket was ripped away with just a few swipes across the screen. Luna woke to her phone vibrating nonstop. Messages, social tags, article links. She opened it, her heart slowing a beat when she saw the headline. Alex Sterling's new girlfriend revealed. Unknown woman spotted beside young CEO. The first photo was of her and Alec kissing on the Brooklyn Bridge, city lights blending with the outline of his jaw. Another showed Alec opening his car door for her outside Sterling Tower. Another captured them strolling along the Hudson, her head tilted slightly toward him. Her fingers tightened around the phone as comment after comment flashed across the screen. Gold digger. Another girl chasing rich men. Sterling Corp stock drops due to romance scandal. She looks cheap. Luna exhaled sharply, leaning back against the bed frame. The words didn't make her cry. She'd endured worse. The real wound wasn't in the cruelty of strangers. It was in the financial section at the bottom of the article. Sterling Corp's stock drops 3.2% this morning. Her brows knit. She scrolled further. By noon, the stock update showed a 4.1% drop. That afternoon, a major financial outlet predicted, shareholders worry CEO is distracted by new romance at a critical time. Luna swallowed something acidic rising in her throat. Where was Alec? She opened her messages. Alec. Don't read what they write. Alec. None of this affects me. Alec, are you okay? She tried to smile at the words. She wanted to believe him, truly wanted to, but she understood how markets worked. She knew how the media inflated stories into scandals, and she knew Alec would never tell her if he was struggling. He would carry it alone, the way strong people always do. The day spun into chaos. That night, Alec texted again. Alec, everything will be fine. Alec, don't worry, she replied. I trust you. And she meant it. But the next day, things got worse. Sterling Corp fell another 2%. Large accounts called for an emergency shareholder meeting. A few articles claimed the CEO was losing focus due to a new relationship. Luna sat in the coffee shop, hands trembling, as she read a long analysis predicting Sterling Corp could be seen as lacking strategic consistency. At noon, Alec arrived at the cafe like he always did. He sat in their corner booth with that familiar composed aura. But Luna noticed the changes, the faint exhaustion beneath his eyes, the way he pressed his thumb into the bridge of his nose to ease a headache, the longer pauses he took staring at his screen before sighing. He didn't admit to a struggle. He didn't show frustration. But she saw it. She saw everything. Her chest tightened with a pain she had never known. The pain of watching the man she loved hold up the world with one hand while using the other to shield her from the storm. That night, Luna lay awake, unable to sleep. She stared at the ceiling. Then she checked her phone. Then at the sleek black business card Alec once gave her. Alec had never once made her feel small, never treated her like a burden, but that didn't erase a truth she could no longer ignore. She was now a point of vulnerability, an exposed flank others could use to strike him. The thought stabbed her chest. Day 2 arrived with the same torment. Rumors didn't fade. Stocks dropped another 1.6%. A new article speculated that the CEO's romance may cost shareholders tens of millions. Her fingers went numb as she read. For 2 days, she wrestled herself. 2 days she searched for reasons to stay, only to find reasons pointing her toward the exit. She could not let him pay the price for loving her, even if it meant cutting away the most beautiful part of her life. That evening, she made her decision. A decision so painful she pressed her hand to her chest as though trying to hold her heart together before it shattered. It rained that afternoon. Not a storm that washed the streets clean, but a cold, persistent drizzle, the kind that tested how long a person could endure discomfort before breaking. Luna walked into Sterling Tower not by strength, but by sorrow dragging her forward. Her heart hammered painfully as an employee guided her to the CEO conference suite. Alec had just finished a meeting. He still wore a white dress shirt and gray blazer, hair slightly tousled from the long day. The moment he saw her through the glass door, his eyes lit up. An instinctive reaction so beautiful she almost cried right there. Luna? He stepped toward her, every movement warm. What's going on? She stepped back. Just a fraction, but enough for his expression to falter. Alec. Her voice trembled, yet held steel. I'm here to tell you that we should stop. The words fell like shattered glass. She watched them slice into his gaze. Alec froze, dangerously silent, the kind of silence that thickened the air. Why? He asked, voice low, barely more than breath. Luna swallowed against the ache. The rumors, the stock, what people are saying about you. I can't be the reason you fall. You're not dragging me down. His reply came instantly, sharp enough to sever fear, if only words could undo consequences. But I am the reason they're attacking you. Her voice cracked. I know you're pretending everything is fine, but I see you. I see you're tired. I see you're worried, and I can't let you carry me on top of all that. Alex stepped forward, instinctively reaching for her. Luna stepped back, cutting away her own heart to protect his. I don't belong in your world, she whispered. In that moment, space split between them, a thin fracture, but deep enough to wound both. Alex stared at her for a long time, his gray eyes darkening in a way she had never seen. Not angry, not accusatory, just pain, sharp, still, like a lake moments before a storm. I never wanted you to leave, Ishward, he said, voice so low it sounded dragged from the depths of his chest. But Luna only shook her head. She knew if she heard one more word, Her will would collapse. "I'm sorry," she murmured. A gentle sentence, a devastating verdict. Then she turned. She didn't wait for him to say her name. She didn't wait for footsteps behind her. She fled that bright hallway, that tower, that warmth, leaving behind a man standing alone like a statue, forgotten in a gentle rain. Alec didn't chase her. Not because he didn't want to, but because he knew the one thing he could not do was force her heart to stay while she was breaking hers to protect his. And beneath the rain falling across Manhattan's streets, only one truth echoed through the cold silence. Luna Hart had run from Alex Sterling's world and taken the piece of his heart he never got the chance to give voice to. Not everyone saw Alex Sterling fall apart. He didn't yell. He didn't break anything. He didn't get drunk. He didn't do any of the things men abandoned in movies usually did. Alex simply went silent. A silence that made the enormous penthouse colder than the June rain sweeping across Manhattan. A silence that told the people closest to him that something had carved a deep line into the man they once believed nothing could rattle. The day Luna left, Alex still walked into the boardroom on time, still addressed every issue the shareholders threw at him, still maneuvered the company's rescue strategy with a sharpness that made everyone breathe easier. He worked like a perfectly oiled machine, a version of himself that couldn't stumble. And over the following week, the company fully recovered. The stock climbed back up, even surpassing its pre-scandal level. Executives were impressed, shareholders relieved. Financial analysts spoke of Alex Sterling again as a decisive CEO who could turn the tide in a crisis. But there was one thing no financial report could record. The empty space inside him never returned. It stayed there, wide, dark, deep enough to make everything else feel dull. Luna's old messages were no longer on his screen, not because he deleted them, but because she wasn't sending any more. Every time his phone buzzed, Alec looked at it a beat too long before realizing it was just an email or a calendar alert. The signs of exhaustion showed in places most people never noticed: the slight sag in his broad shoulders after long meetings, the crease between his brows that didn't fade even after the crisis was over, and the way his eyes drifted every time he looked out the boardroom window at the Manhattan skyline he knew by heart. Even in his office, sometimes his assistant walked in and found Alex staring at the latte cup in his hand, the kind of Luna used to make for him every day. He didn't drink it, just held it, as if the warmth of the cup could pull her back to him. Double asterisk. At night, the penthouse became a hollow version of itself. Glass walls reflected his silhouette, tall, strong, immaculate, but missing something he couldn't name. Rain fell outside. Rain tapped against the glass. Rain blurred Manhattan into long streaks of glowing light, beautiful but lonely. Alex stood before the massive window, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a glass of whiskey he brought to his lips, once before setting it down. Lightning flashed in the distance, momentarily sharpening the angles of his face. In that light, his eyes looked emptier than usual, as if the only living thing left inside him was longing. He missed Luna's laugh, clear like soap bubbles bursting in sunlight. He missed the way she tilted her head when she was confused, missed the warmth of her hand on his on the penthouse balcony, missed her bright voice saying, "I trust you." And more than anything, he missed the way she looked at him the first time, as if he were the safest place in her entire world. Then he remembered that rainy afternoon, the moment she looked at him through tears and said she didn't belong in his world. No one on earth could hurt Alex Sterling. Not scandals, not the market, not competitors, only her. 3 days later, in his quiet office, his longtime assistant, Graham, knocked and stepped inside. He had been with Alex since the early days when Sterling Corp was still an up-and-coming company. He was also one of the few who knew how to read Alex's silence as if it were a language. "The stock is back up," Graham reported. "The board has paused emergency meetings. Everything is stable." "Good," Alex said without looking up. "You shouldn't drink cold coffee," Graham added, gentle, but sharp enough to pierce the heavy quiet Alec was wrapped in. Alec glanced down at the latte on his desk. He hadn't taken a single sip since buying it. Graham stood still for a long moment, as if weighing something. Then he spoke, slow and certain. "Alec, I've worked with you long enough to know one thing." He paused. "You only become like this because of one person?" Alec didn't respond, but his eyes closed for 1 second. 1 second was enough for Graham to see everything. She brought you back to life, Alec. Graham looked at him, not as an assistant addressing a CEO, but as a father speaking to a son. Don't lose her. The words echoed through the empty office, bounced off the glass walls, and landed in Alec's chest, a truth he couldn't deny. He didn't answer, didn't nod, didn't make a promise. But in that silence, something shifted. Something small, hidden, almost invisible, but strong enough that sooner or later, it would pull him back toward her. That night, as the city glowed in gold beneath a never-ending rain, Alex Sterling stood alone before the largest window in the penthouse, his hand pressed to the cold glass. Below him, Manhattan shimmered, but in his eyes, the entire city was an empty space without Luna in it. And for the first time since she walked away, a question sparked through him like a tiny bolt of lightning. If she was the only thing that made him feel alive, could he really let her disappear forever? New York at the end of June had strange moods. Dazzling sunlight in the morning, heavy rain in the afternoon, and at night, wind sweeping through narrow streets as if trying to soothe every soul that had survived a long, exhausting day. For Luna, the past 2 weeks felt like 2 years. Ever since she left Alec, her world had returned to that familiar shade of gray she once knew how to endure. But this time, that gray was unbearable. Not after knowing the warmth of him. She worked more hours to fill the void. Bean and Bloom shortened its opening hours because sales dropped. Rumors said the shop might close in a few weeks. Luna forced a smile whenever customers asked how she was doing, but her hands shook when holding a latte cup, as if no matter how hard she tried, the world refused to stay still for her. Her mother's health declined again. The headaches returned, worse than before. Medication prices went up. Bills piled up, careless and cruel. Luna dug through old invoices, drew up budgets, crossed off every unnecessary expense, but everything felt necessary. She tried to be strong, swallowing tears like she always had. But this time, she weakened so quickly she barely recognized herself. One cloudy afternoon, she rushed to the pharmacy for her mother's new prescription, only to hear the pharmacist say the hospital requested further tests because some numbers aren't right. Luna froze between the shelves, her vision blurring, as though her body were sinking into cold water. She stepped out of the pharmacy with the bag of medicine, heavy as a stone in her hand. The sky began to rain. Not a torrent, just a thin, lingering drizzle, like someone quietly crying on her behalf. She stood beneath the old awning of her apartment building, trying to breathe. But her chest hurt, so heavy, as if her heart, something she thought had grown used to breaking, was being squeezed one more time, and this time she no longer had the strength to rise again. Luna. His voice cut through the rain like a blade of light. She looked up, and Alec was there. Not in a tailored suit, not with the cold, untouchable aura of a CEO. Not like a man who belonged to a world she once convinced herself she had no place in. He stood in the rain, shirt drenched, hair disheveled, breath uneven like he had run the entire city just to find her. His gray eyes, the eyes she thought she had lost, held her as though she was the only thing alive in that dark, wet world. Alex stepped forward. She stepped back on instinct. But that was the moment her tears fell. Not from fear, but because the weight she had carried for 2 weeks broke apart the instant he said her name. Alex saw the tear and something inside him snapped. He moved closer. No permission asked, no hesitation. He cupped her cheek with a touch so gentle it felt sacred. "You're crying." His voice was hoarse, truly hurting. Luna shook her head, then nodded, then shook it again, unable to hold on to one truth. She covered her face, her breath breaking. I'm so tired. My mom's getting worse. The shop is closing. And Her voice cracked. "I don't know what to do anymore." Alec looked like the words had taken the air from his lungs. He held her shoulders, leaning down until she had no choice but to meet his eyes. Eyes with no trace of steel, only raw honesty. "Luna," he said, each word heavy as a vow, "I'm here." "No, you shouldn't be here." She stepped back, rain blending with tears. "I'm hurting your life. I told you, I don't belong in your world." Alec froze for 1 second. Just one. Then he released her shoulders, but not to walk away. He lowered himself. One knee to the wet pavement. Right there in the middle of Brooklyn Street, surrounded by people running with umbrellas and rain pounding the concrete like a heartbeat. Luna gasped. Alec, what are you doing? Alec looked up, rain dripping from his hair, but his eyes were glowing with something she had never seen. Not power, not pride, not the ego of a man who stood on top of a city, but love, unmasked, unprotected, real. If you don't want to step into my world. His voice was ragged but clear beneath the rain. Then I'll step into yours. She stumbled back, heart twisting painfully. Get up, people are watching. I don't care. One sentence, and the world held its breath. Alec held out his hand, not a command, not a claim, but the most beautiful plea she had ever seen. Luna Hart, he whispered, I love you. His voice broke, honest enough to tear through skies. Don't shut me out. Don't carry all this pain alone. Just give me a chance, one chance, and I will be here, with you, in your world, through every storm you have to face. Luna covered her mouth, sobbing as if her body no longer remembered restraint. He was kneeling, this powerful, composed, unreachable man, kneeling in the rain, not because he was desperate, but because loving her was the truest thing he had ever known. She stepped forward, hands trembling as they cupped his rain-soaked face. Alec, please don't kneel for me. He held her hands, pressing his cheek into her palms, as though they were the only thing keeping him grounded. I will do anything if it means you know I'm not leaving. Luna broke, not into pieces, but open. She cried, not from pain, but from release, the sound of someone who finally found a place to fall. She threw herself into his arms, clinging to him as she had finally stopped running, as she had finally chosen to believe. Alec wrapped his arms around her, pulling her against him, shielding her from the rain as though the world could collapse and he would still not let her go. In the rain-soaked streets of Brooklyn, beneath headlights smeared into golden streaks on the wet pavement, Luna wept in the arms of the man she once tried to leave. The only man who didn't come to her with the weight of his world, but with the truth of his heart. News of Alec publicly defending Luna spread across the media within 12 hours. He didn't hold a press conference. He didn't hire lawyers to threaten anyone. He simply posted a short statement, just 3 sentences, but enough to silence an entire storm. The rumors involving Luna Hart are false. I love her. Any insult toward her is an insult to me. Social media exploded. Business outlets suddenly shifted to a gentler tone. Sterling Corp's stocks surged upward like a surprising rebound after a hurricane. But for Luna, the most important part wasn't the numbers. It was that he had done something she never dared dream anyone would do for her. He stood on her side in front of the world. That night, her mother went to stay with her sister, telling Luna to rest after a difficult week. Her small apartment had never felt this quiet. Warm yellow light fell across the old brick walls, creating a softness that made her heart melt simply by standing there. Alec arrived at her door after the sky had fully darkened. No suit, no tie, just Alec. Black dress shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, the faint scent of rain on his skin, and gray eyes looking at her like he hadn't breathed properly in days. Are you sure you want me to come in? He asked, his deep voice carrying a slight tremor, the kind that belonged to a man who felt too much for one woman. Luna nodded. The door closed behind him. The click of the lock sounded like the start of a new chapter in their lives. In the warm light, Alex stood a single step away. He lifted a hand and touched her cheek, a slow touch. So slow her entire body heated just from the brush of his fingertips. Luna, he said her name like a prayer. She looked up at him, her eyes shimmering under the soft glow. I'm here, she whispered. Something inside Alex snapped, not in anger, but in the kind of tenderness that hurt to witness. He ran his fingers through her hair, weaving them gently through the soft strands, pulling her face slightly closer. Since that first night, he murmured, his breath brushing her lips, I've wanted you to be real. Those words, soft, deep, slid through the old fears inside her like a warm blade slicing them clean. She didn't answer with words. She stepped closer, placing her hands on his chest right where his heartbeat pounded strongly enough for her to feel through the fabric. Alec lowered his head. This kiss wasn't rushed like the one on the Brooklyn Bridge. Wasn't trembling like the kiss in the penthouse. It was deep, hot, filled with desire that had been restrained for far too long, and with a brand new trust powerful enough to make her shake. He kissed her like he had waited his entire life for this moment, and she kissed him back like she was finally allowing herself to love, without fear, without armor. Alec's hand slid up her back, gripping her waist as if afraid she might disappear. She wrapped her arms around his neck, pulling him down, closer, deeper, as if to erase every last inch still separating them. His hot breath grazed her neck when their lips parted for half a heartbeat. She gasped softly, voice trembling. "Alec!" He pressed his lips to her collarbone, each kiss slow and tender enough to make her eyes flutter shut. "No one," he whispered between long, lingering kisses, "no one has ever made me want the way you make me want." Luna felt her knees weaken. Alec lifted her, effortlessly, instinctively light, steady, possessive in the gentlest way. He set her down on the small sofa by the window, where the warm yellow light painted her face like firelight. She looked at him, and for the first time in her life, she didn't feel small or scared. She felt cherished, held, seen as something truly precious. Alec leaned down, their lips meeting again, this time deeper. Longer, as if he were kissing every hidden part of her she had once forgotten existed. In her tiny apartment, beneath the soft glow of warm lights and the sound of rain falling outside the window, the two of them found each other again with no wealth, no invisible walls, no cruel rumors between them. Just two once broken hearts now intertwined in breath, in heartbeat, in desire so powerful it felt like they'd waited a lifetime for this moment. And that night, Luna Hart understood for the first time what it truly felt like to be loved. 1 year after that rainy night, New York had changed colors. Not because of the seasons, not because of the skyline, but because Luna's life now held a kind of light she had never dared to imagine touching. Her event planning studio, Luna Hart Events, sat on the third floor of a red brick building in Soho, its glass door always glowing warm yellow. Inside, the place smelled of pine wood, fresh flowers, and the laughter of young girls learning from her how to run their first small gala. She wasn't rich, wasn't glamorous, but every morning she unlocked the studio, she felt like she was stepping into a life she had built with her own hands. Alec helped, quietly from the background. No name attached, no involvement in operations, no pressure. "I only pulled a few small strings," he once said, shrugging as if it meant nothing. But Luna knew, without his support, she would have needed years before daring to open the studio. Her mother was healthier too. Doctor visits became fewer, her color returned, and she even insisted on helping Luna prepare flowers for a major event. One spring afternoon, she held Luna's hand and said, "You deserve happiness, Luna. Don't doubt that anymore." Maybe that was why, tonight, when Alex said, "I want to take you somewhere," she didn't ask questions. She simply got into his car, her fingers gently intertwined with his. Trust now something that felt instinctive rather than fragile. When the elevator doors opened, Luna froze. Sterling rooftop, where they had first met, where she had accidentally walked into the wrong ballroom, where she had nervously whispered, "Please, pretend to be my boyfriend." But now the rooftop looked nothing like the old gala nights. No guests, no music, no stage lights. Only hundreds of candles glowing softly, stretching across the rooftop like trails of golden stars. The night wind flickered the flames, reflecting warm, honey-colored light onto Luna's cheeks. The entire city below blurred away, leaving only the space where they stood as real. Alex stepped up behind her, arms circling her waist. A slow, steady embrace so familiar her chest softened instantly. She leaned back into him, feeling his breath warm against her neck. "You once said," Alec whispered, his voice low like the candlelight behind them, "that night was pretend." Luna closed her eyes. The words brushed an old memory. No longer painful, only beautiful. "I did," she murmured with a soft smile. "I said that." Alec lowered his lips to her shoulder, brushing a kiss across her skin. Quiet, but enough to make her tremble in his arms. I wanted it to be real. His breath traced each word against her skin. Forever. Luna turned, and the candles cast a soft glow across his face. Beautiful, steady, peaceful in the way of a man who had found the most important thing in his life. Alec reached into his coat and pulled out a small velvet box. No theatrics, no long speech. Nothing like the empty promises she had once heard from her past. He simply kneeled, not for show, but because it felt like the only true thing to do at this moment. His knee touched the wooden rooftop floor, his hand held hers, and his eyes lifted toward her like the entire city's lights had gathered inside his gray gaze. "Luna Hart," he said, his voice so deep her heart tightened. "From the moment you walked into that ballroom by mistake, I knew I'd never see the world the same way again." Tears spilled, not from sadness, but from something deeper than happiness, something she once feared she might never have. Alec gently squeezed her hand and continued, "I love your strength. I love the way you smile even when your heart hurts. I love your little world, and I want to live in it for the rest of my life." He opened the velvet box, a simple, elegant ring, shining like a single star. "Luna," his voice roughened, "marry me? For real. Not pretend. Not one night. Not one temporary moment." She laughed through her tears, covering her mouth with her hand. "Alec, I—" But she didn't finish the sentence. She threw herself into him. Alec rose, wrapping his arms around her, lifting her off the ground just slightly, as if she were the lightest, most beautiful thing ever to touch his life. "Yes," she whispered against his neck. "Yes, Alec Sterling. Yes." He held her tightly, his warm breath mingling with the soft flicker of candle flames around them. When their lips met, a kiss long, deep, and hungry with a year's worth of longing, Luna knew her life had turned toward a path she had never dared dream of. 1 year of waiting, 1 year of healing, 1 year of love. And at last, no more pretend boyfriend, no more wrong ballroom, no more cruel rumors or rainy nights of parting. Only the two of them are real. Forever. Their wedding took place that fall, on the same rooftop where she had once trembled and whispered, "Just for tonight." But when Alec leaned down to kiss her in front of all their family and friends, he whispered softly enough for only her to hear, "Not tonight." A lifetime. And Luna smiled, knowing that this time finally happiness truly belonged to her.